Hey everybody, this is Rob at DFS Today Gardner, and I'm going to bring you guys the latest updates on our really cool tool here as part of the DFS Dash, and we're really excited about all the changes and upgrades. It seems like the tool's getting better every week, and I record a new video every week just because of so many things that are changing. So let me take you through the latest and kind of run you through what we've got here. The goal of the Dash, of course, is to bring a bunch of research to you in a very short amount of time and allow you to have the freedom to really interact and experience the slate itself without having to spend hours and hours and hours on research. And so I'm logged in here to the main page of the Dash, and we do have a sports alerts page. This will update with any alerts that come in across all sports in real time. So this is a great screen you can keep up. It will also show you up here, you've got a little indicator anytime an alert happens for a specific sport. It'll pop up here. I'm going to go ahead and come in here and just kind of show you the rundown here. Meet the team. You can come in here and you can see the experts for any of our given sports. Kind of cool to know what their backgrounds are and why they believe what they believe, what their experience is. We believe that each expert's a little bit different. They bring a little bit different perspective, and you may align with one more than the other. So it's always good to have the background information on them. Of course, the tutorial video is always available for you to watch if you want, and we will keep it updated as we add things. Let me take you into the dashboard here, okay? And it looks a little bit different than the last time we did this. Again, you're going to get alerts specific to NASCAR that are available here. And then we have our My Plays section. And the My Play section are basically a list of all of the plays that our experts are recommending to play for that week. And so you can see here a play. I'll just kind of run you through the box here. We get the name of the driver, what position they've qualified, their overall rank as a play this week, and then the vibrating. And the vibrating is basically kind of our popularity rating. We go back into the back end and we scrape a bunch of articles and read a bunch of strategy articles, and we get a feel for just how popular a play is for that week, and they get a rating according to that. Then you get an indicator for whether they should be a GPP play, a cash play, and how high risk or low risk they are. Some plays will show up as both. They'll show up as GPP and cash. Some will just be GPP. Some will just be cash. And risk goes from minimal risk all the way up to extreme risk. And so it gives you an idea of like, a play may be really good, but he may have a lot of risk associated with him. Salaries show up here. Obviously for NASCAR right now, there's only one site that does NASCAR, so we just get one salary here. And then we have 4 ratings for every sport. In NASCAR, we do hammer, mover, punt, practice, and finish. And the cool thing with all these things is you can mouse over them, and you can see exactly what they are. So even if you watch this video and you forget, you can always mouse over them and see what they are. But here the hammer is basically how well we expect the driver to stay at the front of the race and get points for fastest laps and lead laps. Mover is how much we expect them to move up through the field. They get a practice rating as our experts watch practices each week and kind of assess how well they do in practice, so you don't have to. And then their finish rating of how well we expect them to finish in the race. On the right-hand side, our experts weigh in as a thumbs up or a thumbs down, depending on how they feel about the driver. And then you can mouse over them to see what their actual comments are for the particular race. So it kind of gives you a very quick overview of where these players are. And then there's a lot of ways that you can interact with them. Down here in the very bottom, we actually have our fades. And these are guys that our guys don't recommend using. But for example, let's just say for some reason you really wanted to use Austin Dillon this week. You can click this arrow, and he will pop up into your My Play section, which is important because you're going to interact with all of the drivers that are in your My Play section. And likewise, let's just say you're going through research and for some reason you decide that there's a guy in here that you don't like for any reason. Like say you don't want to use Landon Castle, you can hit this X and it'll bump him down to the My Fade section down here. If for some reason you want to ignore your experts or maybe you just want to start fresh, you can use the set all to picks or set all to fades buttons to move everybody to the top or to the bottom, and then you can filter accordingly. You can also reset back to the experts picks. So let's say I set all to fades, and now I'm like, oh, I didn't really want to do that. I want to just start with what the experts had again. You can hit reset picks, and it will take us back to where the original setup that the experts have chosen for you. As you're looking through these, you're going to want to start to make adjustments. And so one of the first things you can do is set exposure. And by clicking on this star, you can come in, they're increments of 5. You can start to decide kind of roughly like how much exposure you want to each driver. As you do, it's color coded, you can see there. So it's really easy to see exactly how you're setting your exposures up. And this is just a great way as you're going through things to just kind of take a look and decide, exactly how much you want of each player as you're going. You can adjust these at any time, so there's no need to think about how you're setting these up or what you're accomplishing. You can come back later and tweak them. But it's a great starting place in terms of when you're starting to think about roster building, just as a personal note. And also, this number actually interacts with both roster builders that we have, and so it's a great way to kind of get your bearings, if you will, and get going here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some exposures in here just so we kind of have some in place. And then we have another feature that's called tagging, and this is really, really cool, and I'll show you a little bit more about this in a minute. But just to give you a basic idea, for any of these drivers, you can go ahead and tag them as a hammer mover, a value play, a star play, a chalk play, or a contrarian. And what's really cool is you don't have to just settle for just one. You can actually come in and set them as chalk and a star, right? And so basically both will show up here, and it'll show up highlighted here as well. And then if you want to undo the chalk, you can go ahead and undo the chalk. And what this basically does is when you get into mass roster gen, you can actually decide to build rosters where you say I want at least 3 stars and at least 3 value plays, or I want to make sure I have at least 1 contrarian play in every roster. And it's basically going to use these tags to determine exactly which players get in those specific roles. Now, you don't have to use them. If you want, you can just use them as personal notes, and when you get to the mass roster gen, you can just leave those wide open. But it allows you an extra level of refinement you don't find in roster gens that are on the market today. Once you've kind of gotten through and you've kind of decided who your plays are and who you want to work with, we've got 2 roster building options. The first one is the build custom roster option, and that's going to pop up a screen just like this. And in this screen, what you can essentially do is you can start to manually build out your own rosters here. We can see in our exposure table, how far we are from what our target is. So like Jimmy Johnson, our target was 40. We're at 0 right now, so we're at minus 40. But just like you would on DraftKings or FanDuel or any other site, you can come in here and start to fill in rosters. Your average remaining per player and your total amount left show up on here on the left, or on the right, sorry. And as you pick players, it automatically removes players that don't fit the salary cap. And then once you're done and you've got a roster you like, you hit save, and that roster is going to come down here to your pool here on the bottom. Now, what's cool about this is, let's say you want to build a nucleus around 4 drivers and just kind of build a bunch of combos of the other 2. No worries. You're just going to come in here, you're going to delete these 2, you're going to make another combo here, and you can save again, and now you've got a second roster. And we'll pull out 2 more again. And maybe now we want to go Danica and Suarez. Okay, bam, we hit save. Once you've built this manual set of rosters that you like and your exposures are where you want them, you can actually download the rosters as an CSV file that can go right into DraftKings. And so by clicking this download button here, it pops up the CSV, saves it to your desktop. Then you can go into the My Lineups on DraftKings and you can import them, and bam, you're set to go. So this is a great way if you don't want to just go the pure mass roster gen way and you kind of want to have some specific control over your rosters, you can do so. The other way that we've got for roster building here, I'll come in here and we'll go down to the mass roster gen, and we're really excited about this. So this is our mass roster gen here, and this is kind of similar to what you're probably used to on other sites, in that you can come in and you can decide that you want to build 50 rosters, and you want those rosters to have, let's say, up to 1K of cap space. And then you've got your exposures. And so, again, this is pulling in your exposures from the other page. But, if for some reason you want to tweak it, you want to give Kenseth a 25 and Busch a 15 and so on and so forth, you have the ability to come in and change these, again, on the fly as you want. So nothing is ever set in stone. Now, these 2 numbers up here are really important. In order to get good balance in your roster gen, you have to add your numbers up to the proper amounts. And so because we've got 6 driver spots, the total exposure you want should add up to 600. And so we say between 570 and 630 is okay, but ideally you want to get right on that 600 mark. And so I'm just going to take 15 off of Logano, That'll take us to 600. And then the salary balance is basically a little bit more complex number, but what it's doing is it's figuring out how much salary you're spending across those exposures. And so when it's high, like ours is right now, is a little bit too high, it means we have a little bit too much exposure to the high-end guys and not enough exposure to the low-end guys. And that's important because if you're too heavy on high-end or the low-end, it's going to warp your percentages at the opposite end of the scale in order to fit the total salary. So I'm going to go ahead and take 15% off Logano. Okay, and we can see that that brought us down a little bit, and then I'm going to add 15% to one of these punts here, and that should bring us into range. And so again, you can tweak this as much as you want, but the goal is to kind of get it in those green ranges so you can get a decently accurate distribution. And then again, over here, like I said, you can choose the number of rosters, min and max salary, and then here's where those tags come into play. And so if you wanted to have 3 hammers exactly on your rosters, you could set this to 3 and make sure that you had 3 hammers in every roster. Now, the more specific you get with this and the less options you have tagged, obviously the less rosters you're going to get. But it gives you intense flexibility in terms of your roster building. And again, as you do this, you're going to get suggestions from our experts about how you should build. And so it's going to give you the freedom to really hone in and build rosters that you want to build. And so I'll just go ahead and click this Create Rosters button here. And this screen is going to look familiar to you. It's similar to the custom roster generation screen, except in this case, we actually have our automated rosters built. And so I can come down here, and we wanted 50 rosters. We got 50 rosters. A cool feature is we can actually name these rosters. So say I want this to be for the 200 single entry tournament. I want this to be for the 100 single entry tournament, and I want this to be for the 53 max. Oops, sorry, clicked on the wrong thing there. 53 max. Each of these can have its own name. And that gets to be important here in a little bit when we start editing rosters, so on and so forth. And so these rosters will all save. And if I refresh the page and come in, those names are still there. Great labels for you to determine what your rosters are kind of being used for. With this table is fully interactive, so if you want to sort by the most recent or the oldest that you've created, you can sort by ID. You can sort by driver number and the first driver and kind of order it in name order. But probably the most useful feature here is the search. And so if I want to get all the rosters that have the number 88 Dale Earnhardt in them, I can enter number 88 in the search, or I can enter Dale Earnhardt. And here's all 5 rosters from the 50 total rosters that have Earnhardt in them. And so then I can look and decide whether I want to keep all these 5, or again, maybe I want to kill one of these. I don't really like this Earnhardt Truex Logano combo, and so I can go ahead and delete it. And all of my exposures up here update, and so I have a feel for where things are at. And again, I can come in and add new rosters. And so you've done a roster gen, but you still have the flexibility to interact with it, change it, tweak it, which is really, really, really cool. Again, once you're done, you can click download, and it'll download the CSV file for you, and you're off and running for importing rosters into DraftKings. Now, the one other feature I'll kind of tell you about, and I can't show it to you in full because I don't have an entries file anymore from last week, but we do have this import and edit DK rosters file. And what this is, if you've ever had to edit rosters on the fly, you know that you can actually download, after you've uploaded rosters or registered for rosters, you can actually download a file from DraftKings called the edit entries file that has all of your existing contest entries in it. And what this will let you do is when you upload your entries file, it will pull all of your contests in, and then it will allow you the option to either randomly distribute the rosters you've generated from your custom roster builder or from your mass gen onto those entries, or you can actually apply individual rosters to each contest. And that's where those labels from before came in, because each roster is saved under that name. And so you can come in and you can actually take all of those rosters and one by one go through and assign them to those actual contests. It's a really cool feature that saves you a lot of time because you don't have to mess with pulling up a Google spreadsheet and copying things in and then having to save it and export it. We take care of it all for you here, which makes it not only easy and quick to do and saves you time, but should you need to make some last minute changes, it actually makes it to be a viable option. So that's kind of the NASCAR dashboard in a shell. If you have any questions, you can hit us up. You can hit me up personally at DFS Today. That's my Twitter handle. I'm on there all the time. We're constantly working on things. You can also tweet at the official Twitter for Datalytics and DFS Dash, which is at DFS Datalytics. Both are great ways to get a hold of us. But yeah, let us know how you feel about things. Let us know what you think about it. We're always looking for ways to improve it and make it a little bit better. So that's it for today, and we hope you enjoy the product.